All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am back with Everybody is a Story and Everybody Has a Story. And today I have a special guest. I love his name, I really do. Simphiwe. And I remember the first time you said, yeah, but you can call me Sim. I said, no, the name is so beautiful. We have to pronounce it correctly. Simphiwe. I love it. Thank you for being here, darling.
Thank you, Kamla, and thank you for pronouncing my name correctly because I've heard different variations of my name. So,
I can't imagine. Does it mean anything?
yes, it does. Actually, Simphiwe is, we were gifted him by either our ancestors or our God. So, in this instance, my dad gave me the name, and I was a gift from God to my family, being my mom and my dad.
Ooh, oh wow. Well, I'm speechless. Beautiful,
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you.
As I
Thank you.
start every interview, I believe, and I believe that science is backing that up now, that we all start within our grandmother's belly, basically. So when your mom was in your grandmother's belly, your Excel existed already. So what can you tell me about your grandmother from your mom's side?
My grandmother was an amazing and phenomenal woman. She was very particular. I mean, she also at some point she was Miss Cape Town Black. I think she's one of the first people to compete in the pageantry back in those days. It was the 1940s, and she came back home with the title. Of course,
Oh wow.
it couldn't be celebrated at that time because there was obviously the whole segregation thing in
Hmm.
Cape Town. My grandmother originally is from the Eastern Cape in Fort Beaufort. That's where
Uh-huh.
her roots are from. She is
Yeah.
a child of 11. So there were
Oh,
11 of them. She's the second born of the 11.
okay.
And yeah, and she actually was the second last one to die. So second born, second last
Mm,
one to die. And all her sisters, she had 10 sisters, she had nine sisters and one
yeah.
brother who couldn't live for long. And all of them passed
Okay.
away. And so basically we left with no grandmothers, but just the family of cousins and siblings.
Yeah.
She moved to Cape Town to look for greener pastures from the Eastern Cape. I hear
Hmm.
in the 1940s, and she got a house in District 6 before the whole Group Areas Act. And yeah, she worked for a European couple as a domestic
Hmm.
worker for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then in her mind, she always thought she was in the health community. She always considered herself a doctor or a
Oh,
nurse.
really?
So that's why she was
Okay.
always dressed in the white dress and with
Uh-huh.
I don't know what you call those color-coded puffs that they
Yes.
wear as nurses. And
Uh-huh.
that's why I said she was particular because she always did things differently.
Uh-huh.
Like, we've got local teams, soccer teams in South Africa. So I
Hmm.
favor Kaizer Chiefs. The rest of the other family is Orlando Pirates. But whenever we asked our grandmother, what do you favor for? She'd say England. So she had this fascination with Europe, especially England. I don't know why.
Uh-huh.
Maybe because
Uh-huh.
the family she worked for was from England, but she
Uh-huh.
had like an undescribable fascination with England. And
Okay.
yeah, she died of leukemia and bone marrow
Mm.
cancer. So it
Okay.
was both at the same time. And I mean, she was a
Uh-huh.
very strong and fresh. She died 87, 89,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and she went into hospital. 2 weeks she was gone.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it just
A
felt
strong woman. Yes.
strong woman,
In all
absolutely.
the sense.
Yes, yes.
Beautiful. What do you think you inherited from her?
Apart from the chronic illnesses,
We don't
like
want
the
that
high
part.
blood
Okay.
pressure, like high
Uh-huh.
blood pressure I get from her. I had TB, but I didn't even share a bed with her. My sister shared a bed with her, but I inherited her TB in 2002. And now I
Uh-huh.
have hypertension because of her. But apart from that, I got humanity from my grandmother.
Mm. Mm.
I'm a people's person. I love being around people. I love making people feel seen. It's something I
Uh-huh.
received from her. I
Yeah.
respect people and I like respect. That's two-way street. I
Right.
definitely got it from her. And I love giving. My grandmother used to
Mm,
give. She would even say if she had tiny bits of sugar left and a neighbor walks in, she would give up the sugar for the neighbor because she'd
uh-huh.
say, well, we'll buy the sugar. Chances are the neighbor won't buy the sugar because here they are asking. So I've
Yeah.
got that deep sense of
Mm,
giving, even though I'm very careful about how much I give, but
sure.
definitely the sense of giving I got from her. And I would say lastly, structure. I'm a very structured person. I know what to do when I've got boundaries. I got that from her. I
Hmm.
don't know if you're gonna ask, but one thing I did not get from her was time management.
Okay. Okay. So that's a challenge.
Yeah, so those are the things that I definitely received from my grandmother.
Beautiful. If you go back to your childhood, what is one or maybe two things that really stand out for you?
Related to my grandmother or just generally?
No, just in general.
Um, I don't know if 17-year-old is childhood, but I mean, I'm almost twice the age now. Um, but when I was represented to so firstly I grew up in a township where the home language is Xhosa and I did my primary school there, my high school there. But of course, I had bigger dreams. So when I got to university, or rather to post-matric, I got a huge culture shock because I didn't know how to speak English. I'd never been next to a
Mm,
different person. I'd always been with Xhosa, amongst Xhosa speaking people. And
uh-huh.
so in 2007, when I was elected to represent South Africa and Africa in a World's Leadership Expedition in Canada, for me, that stood
Ooh,
out for me. It's something I carry to this day because
uh-huh.
when I went into the building the first time in 2005, my first year, there
Uh-huh.
were voices in my head saying, you won't make it, you can't speak English, you can't study, you're not wired this way. But I fought all
Uh-huh.
those voices. And for me to be elected to go to Canada was like,
Uh-huh.
whoa, this is huge,
Yeah.
not only for my family, but for my community, for
Yeah.
Cape Town. And so, yeah, that's a highlight I carry to this day.
So beautiful. What have you learned from that trip?
What I learned from that trip is sharing. Mm,
Hmm.
sharing and sometimes stepping out of your comfort zone
Hmm.
because I mean we were so many, I think we're 20 young people from all over,
Hmm.
Ukraine, Croatia, Canada, USA, Germany, and so the central language was English that we all spoke. And
Hmm.
I still couldn't speak proper English, but I enjoyed that people brought in different accents. So people were
Uh-huh.
not looking at accents, they were looking at, are we understanding what you're saying? And I was
Exactly.
always in my box for the first week in Canada.
Mm.
And my mentor at the time said to me, step out, step out of your comfort zone, get to
Yeah.
learn about other people's cultures and speak to different people every day. You'll see it's
Uh-huh.
going to be a wholesome experience for you.
Yeah.
And I really just did that. And the main learning from that experience is never to limit yourself. So I've never limited myself. I walk into
Mm.
rooms where I sit with CEOs, with founders, and huge people, politicians, but I'll make sure my voice is heard. I'll make sure I'm seen and I'm felt
Aha.
because of the particular
Ooh, I like
experience.
it. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
like it. Okay. Oh, very nice. And then we're moving on to puberty and maybe begin 20s. And what is there the most significant experience you had?
So when I grew up in obviously the township, I didn't know what was happening with me. I just knew I was a different boy. I mean, I used to play
Mhm.
soccer, I played cricket, I was friends with guys, but I just didn't have the same interests as them.
Uh-huh.
Like after a soccer match, we'd all hang around, they'd be waiting for girls. But for me, I'd be like, I don't know what the fuss is about. So I would walk home. And so I struggled for years trying to understand what was happening to me. And when the
Uh-huh.
organization called Love Life came to our
Love life.
township, to our community, that's where we learned about obviously comprehensive sexuality education, particularly about, different sexualities. That's when I knew that, oh, so I wasn't a heterosexual guy like this one. I'm
Uh-huh.
homosexual, which means I date men and. So that sort of defined or redefined what my life would be for years to come.
Uh-huh.
It's the experience of having love life come into our community at the time.
Yeah. Beautiful. And was that hard? Was it easy? How did your family respond to that? How did your community respond to that?
Yeah, so it's I mean on the scale it's very imbalanced. At home, I grew up very flamboyant and feminine and played with girls. Still,
Hmm.
my brother secretly wanted me to be straight because he sent me to all the manly sports, but I would come back home and default to my setting, which is my girls,
Yeah.
playing all the different girl games. And I was always the strongest in all those games. So my family knew. And so when I came out, it wasn't a big thing, but my mother
Hmm.
tried to make it a big thing, and it was big, but I sort of diluted it. I was like, girl, relax, calm down. The community I come from in Cape Town in Langa is very welcoming,
Hmm.
very because it's the first township in Cape Town, so
Hmm.
everything first happened there. So
Uh-huh.
there had been people who were older, who are gay, who had passed on, who were still living at the time, who became
Uh-huh.
our mentors. So we could go back to them and be like,
Mm.
"Hey, there's something happening to me. I don't know what's happening. Can you give me some advice?" So community was
Mm.
very accepting. Family. Yeah, some parts of the family were saying, oh no, some family were like, okay, let's see. Maybe we learn about what it means.
Hmm.
And my friends were very like, ah, we've always known, just come, chill with
Hmm.
us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't really struggle, if I'm being honest. It's just that one
Hmm.
particular meeting that my mom called, because the way I
Hmm.
came out is so weird. There was an advert back then when there was a rumor that Alicia Keys was bisexual. So there was an advert where she was singing, and so it was me, my mom, and my uncle's sister from a
Uh-huh.
different family, and we're sitting watching TV, and I said, oh, by the way, I'm like, hey, I'm bisexual. And then I walked out. I didn't say anything. And then
Drop
I
the
came
mic.
back.
Okay.
Yes. And then I went to church the next morning. It was a Saturday afternoon. Went to
Uh-huh.
church the next morning, and I came back from church. And my sister's very dramatic until now. So she comes to me, she's like, the whole family is in the back room. There's a meeting about you. Come now. And I'm like, meeting about me. Anyway, so I went in, and the whole family is there. My brother, my uncle, my mom, everyone. And so
Uh-huh.
my uncle says in a very deep, manly, masculine voice, you need to repeat what you said to your mom yesterday. I said, oh, what did I say? I said so many things about this thing, sexual, sexual. I said, oh, that I'm bisexual. And my uncle was like, not in this house. You are going to go to the initiation school like all boys do to become a man. You are not going to become a woman. You're not going to make a spectacle of this family. And then I just said, well, I was just doing you a favor because I didn't want reports coming to my house saying I'm
Uh-huh.
standing with the guy doing who she thinks. It was
Uh-huh.
a favor, so you're not going to change me. It is what it is. Thank you. Goodbye. My uncle and I joke about it every time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, I didn't
Just
really.
deal with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really wasn't a struggle, to be honest, because people had
Hmm.
already known. I just didn't know what it was. And
Yeah.
fortunately for those who came before us, my mom's ex came out gay at some point. So obviously she
Ah,
got
okay.
to understand a little bit
Yeah.
about what being gay is.
Sure.
Obviously
Yeah.
not to the extent of having a son that's gay, but now we're like
Hmm.
best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so interesting. I find this very interesting. Because a lot of times I hear, especially from gay guys in this sense, um, that it is hard, that they're still struggling with it, and that it's a really a big thing when they come out for themselves first and then to their family. So it's nice to hear that there's also a different story about that. Like,
Yeah.
it's a matter of factly like, yes, this is just who I am. So I'm just pronounce it
100%.
now, and here we go, and moving on.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Okay,
Mm.
and where are you in your life right now?
Where am I in my life right now? At a point of safety. I'm at a point where safety is my theme from now on. I'm approaching 40, so I'm 37 in July.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and obviously, when I was young, I had bigger dreams that when I'm 40, I want A, B, C, D, E. But then as I grew older, I realized, ah, those dreams are superficial.
Uh-huh.
I'm at a point where I want to be safe around my family, my
Mm-hmm.
friends, my partner, my space. Whatever I do, the
Mm-hmm.
work I do needs to bring safety to people. Because my
Mm-hmm.
main mission is to develop someone else, especially someone who is in the same circumstance as me, someone who's
Mm-hmm.
never had opportunities, someone who wasn't exposed to opportunities. I
Mm-hmm.
want to change the narrative for them, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to bring safety as well into their lives because to navigate
Mm-hmm.
life. is hard. And
Mm,
so it's really about safety. So many things have happened in this year. I mean, we're only in
mm-hmm,
March, but like my
mm-hmm,
mom's house burned, I there was a little bit of a breakup early here and there, had a
mm-hmm.
big difference with my friend, but it didn't affect me as much as it would have 5 years ago because it's
Uh-huh.
all about safety. So I
Yeah.
asked myself, okay, if I inhale all of this, is it not going to affect my safety? And if it does,
Uh-huh.
then I put it aside. So that's
You
why
will
I am in my
eliminate
life
it.
right now. I'm all about safety, yeah, and bringing safety to every space I occupy.
Beautiful. And can you then also tell me maybe one instance where you felt unsafe?
So without saying too much, with the current friendship that so I'm going through a friendship breakup at the moment,
Mm-hmm,
and it's a long-term friendship. It started in
mm,
2011. And
mm-hmm.
of course, I had bigger dreams for it, because we're friends, we're also colleagues. I really thought our friendship would be one of those where um, till death do us part type of friendships.
Right. Yeah.
But recently, the things I've been hearing that my friend is saying to other people has really
Mm,
made me feel unsafe because now
mm.
I'm looking over my shoulder now about who else has he said things to and how do
Yeah.
those people look at me. I'm not
Uh-huh.
somebody who cares too much about what people say, but I
Mm-hmm.
am cautious around who I mingle with and
Sure.
who I engage with because I don't want to engage with someone authentically,
Mm-hmm.
whereas they are watching for the red flags that the friend is talking
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
because otherwise it means the energy is not reciprocated. It means
Mm-hmm.
it's one-sided. So
Mm-hmm.
I've felt unsafe briefly, particularly
Mm-hmm.
because there was one big thing that happened between this friend of
Mm-hmm.
mine and I.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me feel wobbly. I was like, okay, no, I need to exit this friendship immediately, which I did.
Mm. Yeah.
I wrote him a long message explaining that I wish I would have done this in person, but I also
Mm-hmm.
don't know what you're capable of in person if you're able to do this in my
Mm.
absence. So
Yeah.
I'd say a month ago, I really felt a little wobbly and unsafe, but I was
Mm-hmm.
quick to decide it's making me unsafe, then it means it shouldn't be a part of my life. And I
Mm-hmm.
ended the friendship instantly.
Wow. Good. I would say, yeah, a good point. I have been this through this also with a girlfriend and a guy friend, let's say. And sometimes you really have to choose for yourself, even
100%.
if you thought that in what you're saying, it's till the end, till we die. But
Yeah.
sometimes that doesn't work anymore. Yeah.
100%. And I mean, many people have been warning me. So he's been
Mm,
talking to people about me. So I think his biggest mistake was to talk to my best friend in Cape Town. And my best friend said to me, how are you friends with somebody who speaks so negatively of you? And then
mm.
I
You had
spontaneously
no
asked,
clue.
what is he
Yeah.
saying?
Uh-huh.
And then I sat through an hour of listening to bad things he says about me. I
Uh-huh.
was shocked. I was like,
Yeah.
this is how he sees me. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so you're right. I had to cut the cord. It had to be
Mm-hmm.
cut. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What lights you up?
Music.
Any particular
Music.
artist?
Music lights me up. I will listen to a very dark song. I'll still be lit up. I will
Mm-hmm.
listen to a foreign Chinese song. I'll still be lit up.
Uh-huh.
Music gets me going. It gets me going to
Mm-hmm.
clean, to light my mood up, to sleep. Basically, music
Mm-hmm.
is like central part of my life.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Um, from all the life experience you have until now, what is the one thing that you would have wanted to learn really in your earlier years of your childhood? What is a lesson learned now, but like, oh, I wish I knew this before because la 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 la.
Boundaries when it comes to
Mm.
relationships.
Uh-huh.
I wish I was strong enough to communicate my boundaries confidently
Mm-hmm.
because as much as the community was very accepting when I came out, I
Mm-hmm.
had people who took advantage of me because I was young
Mm-hmm.
and naive. And
Yeah.
so, no wasn't something that
Mm-hmm.
I should have in my
Mm-hmm.
vocabulary at that time. So
Uh-huh.
I ended up being a yes person. I would say yes to situations where I'd be like, "Mm, but I'm uncomfortable, but I need to please this person. So I'll say
Mm-hmm.
yes just because.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm able to say, it's not going to work for me. No, not
No more,
happening.
honey. Uh-huh.
No, like no, non-negotiable.
Uh-huh.
I wish I was able to say no and communicate the boundary loudly and
Mm-hmm.
confidently when I was young.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And who you think should have taught you that? Your mom or your dad? Or both?
So I didn't grow up with my dad. Long
Mm-hmm.
story short, my dad left me when I was 3 months and tried to come back into my life when I was 20, when I went to the initiation school
Mm.
to become a man. So obviously, by default, he's not my dad. He's just a sperm donor.
Ooh.
And my mom was a very busy lady. She was busy cooking our future. And I'm saying our future, my two siblings and I. So
Mm-hmm.
she was busy cooking our future. Um, I want to say my grandmother, but my grandmother did try to teach. But we
Mm-hmm.
grew up in a household where you got a hiding if you didn't do things correctly.
Uh-huh.
So she taught me that, but she would do it via a hiding. Like she would hit you with whatever is in front of her.
Yeah.
And then obviously the response would be cheekiness and immaturity and
Yeah.
bang doors
Yeah.
and be angry. Then I
Yeah.
wouldn't process and reflect on that experience.
Mm-hmm.
I
Exactly.
would basically go on to the next thing to prick her or to make her annoyed or angry.
Uh-huh.
And then she
Uh-huh.
would hit me again. So it's something I think she tried to teach myself, but also at the same time, I'm a middle child. As a
Mm-hmm.
middle child, I've always been independent from when I was
Yeah.
young. I mean, I
Mm.
moved out of
Mm-hmm.
home when I was 18.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's something I should have taught myself had
Uh-huh.
I been exposed to tools to do that.
Well, that's the thing, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, but because I
Yeah.
didn't have those tools, my grandmother tried, but she did it in a very strong
Mm-hmm.
way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for me, it
Yeah.
felt like you hate me, you don't love me
Yeah.
because you're hating me.
Yeah. The
And
message did not come across. Yeah.
exactly. So all the great things out of that and the
Mm-hmm.
person I've become, now I
Mm-hmm.
understand that that hiding from 20 years ago was not because she hated me, was because she
Mm-hmm.
was trying to show me the way. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I think she did try, but I wasn't wired to see it that
No,
way.
to capture what she was trying to tell you or learn you for that matter. Yeah.
100% exactly.
Yeah. Okay. If not if, when you're gonna pass away. And that's gonna happen, right? To all of
Yes.
us. So the if is not a question. When you're gonna pass. How would you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as someone who came from dust and
Mm.
became platinum. I want people,
Okay.
I want people to say Simphiwe was from that township in Langa where there are crackheads, there are drunkards, there are gang members, there are extortionists.
Mhm.
But by the time he died, he opened worlds of opportunities for people
Mm.
similar to where he
Ah,
came from. That's how I want to be
yeah,
remembered. Either by my
beautiful.
music, by the work
Mm-hmm.
I do for young people, or just
Mm-hmm.
by simply having conversations with people. Because
Yeah.
every chance I get, whenever I converse with someone, I always turn it into what are your plans for the future? What have you done for the future? What can someone
Mm-hmm.
else do for you to support the future?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. And do you also go back to your community?
Yes, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. So
Mm-hmm.
at the moment, I am a board member at
Uh-huh.
Langa LGBTQ organization. So they just
Mm-hmm.
started out a year ago. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me to plow back is to basically support them free of charge,
Mm-hmm.
giving them admin skills, I want advisory stuff. And yeah, so basically that's how I plow
Mm-hmm.
back to my community. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
whenever there's an opportunity for work or for other things, I always
Yeah.
go back to where I come from, speak to my friends and be
Yeah.
like, hey, have you seen this? You must apply and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a story inside of you that you think the world needs to hear?
Hmm. Good question.
Mhm.
Maybe something top of my head would be how I self-taught. Yeah, I taught myself how to speak English
Mhm.
when I
And
got to
how did you
university.
do that?
Huh? How did
How
I
did
do
you do
it?
that?
I watched programs with subtitles.
Mhm.
I watched a lot of English programs. I was completely confused. I started reading when I got to my first year.
Mhm.
80% of what I was reading, I didn't understand.
Mhm.
And I just engaged. I was at church. I was at Jubilee Community Church. I was in cell
Mhm.
groups every Wednesdays. I'd be with non-Xhosa speaking people. I was just
Mhm.
exposing myself to English.
Mhm.
And I'll
Mhm.
never forget how I used to jump for oral opportunities. Whenever there's like an opportunity for a presentation, I would stand, break my
Mhm.
English from start to finish.
Uh-huh.
But
But you
yeah,
learned. Yeah.
but I mean, I'm serious when I say when I finished my matric, we were taught everything in Xhosa. Even
Mm.
English was taught in Xhosa to us. Even
Oh,
mathematics
really?
was taught in Xhosa,
Okay.
yes.
So that was the
And
only language you heard.
absolutely. So, and of course,
Uh-huh.
I heard on TV when we watched other things, but when I
Mhm.
got to university, I had to push myself. And I gave myself a deadline that by 2000,
Mhm.
I got in 2005. So I said by
Mhm.
2007 in December, I want to be able to speak moderate English.
Uh-huh.
And in fact, 2008 in March, I was employed full-time for the Two Oceans Aquarium at the waterfront
Wow.
because my interview, I was so great. And I was thinking to
Uh-huh.
myself, if you interviewed me 2 years before, like you would
Mhm.
have said, oh no,
Right.
thank you.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So
Yeah, but
yeah, I think
amazing.
it's
Amazing.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
really I think the world is would like to hear how I taught myself how to speak English without
Mhm.
any
Yeah.
tool, without going to English lessons or things like that, but just
Yeah.
pushing. And
Yeah. And
yeah,
the determination, I want to learn this, and you made it work. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. This is for everybody who wants to learn anything. If you
Yes.
really want it, you can do it, right?
Yes. And if you
Yeah.
align that with your dream, because obviously my
Mm-hmm.
dream was to become a public person of some sort. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't thinking music at the time, but I knew that I
Mm-hmm.
want to be a public person.
Mm-hmm.
And I just knew I can't be a public person and I can't speak English. I need to
Mm-hmm.
be able to at least say
Yeah.
something that people will understand. So I
Yeah.
aligned it with the bigger goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Two last questions. I want to respect your time.
Thank you.
What have you learned from your mother?
Um, So I've got two lessons I've learned from my mother when I still
Mm-hmm.
lived with her and after I moved out. So when I lived with her, the one lesson is hustling. My mother was a hustler.
Mm.
She had a
Mm.
full-time job, but she also had side jobs. Like we never ran out of food. Whenever there was something at school, she would always pay for it.
Mm.
I mean, we didn't grow up in a rich home, but we could
Mm-hmm.
afford, you know.
Yeah.
So whenever there was something that was needed at school or at church, my mother would show up and she'd show up
Mm-hmm.
and show out, and you would feel that she was there. So
Mm.
hustling I guess that's where the spirit of freelancing, that's where I get it from.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
And I would say after I moved out, it's holding the family together. She's trying
Mm.
her best, to
Mm.
hold us, the children together, but also the outer family, cousins, family outside
Uh-huh.
of Cape Town. She really
Uh-huh.
tries to get us to one place and to have
Yeah.
aligned family
Uh-huh.
mindsets.
Yeah.
And
Stay
something
connected with each other. Yeah.
and it's something I didn't care about when I started
Mm-hmm.
being an adult because I
Mm.
was navigating life and I was trying to be
Mm-hmm.
independent but then
Mm-hmm.
whenever there's something that happens, you always go back home.
Yeah.
And what happens, and she always uses the example, what happens when you come home and I'm not here? Your cousins will
Mm-hmm.
be here, your siblings will be here. So I've really connected now to my cousins in
Mm.
Bizana, in the Eastern Cape, in Port Elizabeth, here in Gauteng. So it's really just connecting with family and holding that,
Mm-hmm.
even though we
Yeah.
have different names and different clan names, but we are one
Mm-hmm.
family, and that's the most
Yeah.
important thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody or some line, I would say, family line to fall back on when you need it.
Yes,
Yeah. But
100%.
also to celebrate life, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
in April,
Yeah.
we have a family celebration in Fort Beaufort,
Mm-hmm.
which is where all our grandmothers were born. So all of us will be
Mm-hmm.
there, to sort of see the younger
Yeah.
children who've never been there will go to experience for the first time where our grandmothers
Yeah.
come from. So yeah, it's going to
Oof.
be a joyous celebration.
Yes, beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. I said two questions, but I want to have two more.
Go for it.
Um, what have you learned from your father? Even because he was absent, but still, what have you learned from him?
Nothing.
Hmm.
Nothing.
Okay.
He's deadbeat. Yeah, he's
Ooh.
a deadbeat. I mean, 2 days before I went to the initiation school in 2008, I met him a few months before. I told him that, look, I'm going to the initiation school. And of course, in
Mm-hmm.
our culture, if you grew up with your dad or your mother's married to your dad, everything you do using your dad's clan name. Now, I couldn't say that to my
Okay.
mom who brought me up all these years. I was
Uh-huh.
20 at the time. So it was courtesy for me to tell him and say, look, I'm going to the initiation school in 2 days' time. I thought I would let you know. His question
Uh-huh.
was, which clan name are you using? Mine or your mom's? And I said, my mom's. Then he told me, if
Mm-hmm.
you do that, then you're not my son. And then I said to
Ooh.
him, I've never been your son, so I'm good. So I've never learned anything from
Oh.
my dad, and I'm
Oh,
okay with it.
oh, oh.
I made, that's why I'm saying I used to be a very independent child because
Mm.
how old was I? I was 20 at the time. Now I was
Mm-hmm.
19, going on 20, and I I was confident in my decision that you're not my dad. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Until
Mm-hmm.
today, I do meet up with the siblings. So from
Mm-hmm.
maternal siblings, we get along
Mm-hmm.
so much. But when I see my dad, it's almost like I see just another guy from the street. It's like, hi, hi, no, how are yous, or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay. And then really the last question. If you could name, or no, let me ask it in a different way. If your life would be a book, what would be the name of that book?
Continuous beginnings.
Ooh, I like it. Continuous
Because
beginnings.
I've probably had three beginnings so far in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And every
Yeah.
time, and it's okay. I think what I've learned is that once you say, okay, it's the new beginning, people feel stuck, or I felt stuck in that new beginning that, oh no, I can't, make changes, or I can't take 5 steps
Mm.
backwards. I have to keep going. But the problem
Mm.
with that is that you keep going and you go into spaces you're not supposed to go to because you keep on
Uh-huh.
going. So there are times where I have to pause, reflect, and then restart. But then I've had
Yeah.
times where I was like, you know what? Let me scrap everything. Let me start
Uh-huh.
again. The new
Yeah.
beginning. So I'd say
Yeah.
continuous beginnings.
Okay. Lovely. And if that book has 10 chapters, really the last question. If that book has 10 chapters, in which chapter are you now?
6.
Okay.
Yeah,
We got four to
chapter 6.
go. Okay.
Say again?
Okay. We got four more to go.
Yeah, 4 more to go, literally.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. Thank you so much, Simphiwe, for joining me in this episode of Everybody is a Story. Everybody has a story. And hopefully, listeners and watchers will learn lessons from you and pick and choose whatever ignites something within them so that they can go further, bigger, thriving at life, as we say as functional fluency people. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you to you, Kamla. Cool.